Welcome back, Santa Clarita Valley. We're here on your hometown station for the Neighborhood Watch, brought to you by All-America Bail Bonds, where Deputy Kevin Duxbury and I will be talking about Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station outreach twice a month and what's going on in our community. And we were just talking about something that's some illegal activity that's taking place. You guys are seeing it more and more and cracking down on it more and more, especially with the movie presentation kind of glamorizing this kind of dangerous activity, which is illegal street racing. And you know, we had a really high profile case a couple years ago now where Paul Walker, you know, in the industrial zone, he was with Roger Rodas, and they were in a Porsche, and obviously Paul Walker is the main face behind those franchises before this fatal crash. And it happened out here, it brought a lot of attention out here, and we're seeing, you guys are seeing street racers and warning people about the dangers of street racing when it occurs. And talk to me a little bit about, like, what people not understand why it's so dangerous sometimes, I think maybe because of the difference in the road and the track. And
yeah, well, I mean, first of all, you got to remember, all the Fast and Furious movies are movies. It's not reality.
That's important. That is important to know.
You're talking trained stunt drivers, closed roads, prepared roads, a lot of camera tricks. You know, it's just not reality. When you look at, and this is something that I've actually been raised in. We used to do a lot of desert racing when I was a kid. That's off-road stuff. We had a neighbor who did a lot of track racing. We used to go with him all the time.
Down to the track.
Right, and you see these. A true race car itself, okay, it's prepped, roll cages, fire extinguishing systems, cutoff for the fuel and for the electrics. The track itself is prepared and cleaned to provide maximum traction for these tires that are specifically designed for that track.
Right.
They have crash barriers, they have sand pits, it's wide open, where if you go off the course, you're going to go for a rough, bumpy ride for a little while, but you're not going to hit anything.
Right.
Compare that to a city street. Surfaces are different all over. They're not cleaned regularly. Big trees, guardrails, retaining walls,
anything you could
light
hit.
Poles, they don't give way to a car that's being driven way beyond its capabilities, which, by the way, has a standard seat belt, airbags, tires that are designed for all conditions. It's, you know,
and it's one of those things people don't realize because you don't do it very often, but when you lose control at 70 miles an hour, it's a huge difference than when you lose control at 30 or 40.
I got to tell you, you know,
it's spin out.
Speaking from experience, you know, mostly in my radio car, especially in the rain and stuff like that, or when they took us for our training out on the skid pad and stuff like that, there is nothing more terrifying than your car losing traction and you're just along for the ride and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right.
You know, that's a pretty terrifying feeling.
That was, you know, when in my Tercel, I felt that a little bit. But you're going at a much slower speed. You're not racing in my Tercel. So again, street racing, it's a misdemeanor, but you can lose your car for 30 days. You get it impounded. I'm sure you have to pay thousands of dollars in fines if that does happen to you, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you think about it. I mean, the arrest itself, you know, the DMV could suspend your license. Your insurance is definitely going to go up if they don't drop you completely. Yes, you're looking at your car being impounded for 30 days, and that's on you. You're going to have to pay the tow fees and the storage fee to the lot that holds your car.
And it's not going to be cheap.
No, no, it's
if
not.
they take your car and they store it.
You know, all of that seems very small when you compare it to what if you hurt yourself,
risks.
what if you hurt someone else, what if you killed someone else.
Right. Which happened recently, tragically, in the San Fernando Valley. In that case, just not worth it. And you know, there are ways, I'm sure, that you can go to legal areas and you can go to racetracks, right? If
there are plenty of tracks within an hour of Santa Clarita where you can go, and a lot of these tracks have an open day where you go in, you pay the fees, they do a scrutiny of your car to make sure it's safe.
Oh, really?
And you can go run free laps around this track all day long in a safe, controlled environment, you know, where if you go off course, you're not going to hit anything.
Is that what you're talking about, what you've done before? Is like that type of control?
Well, the friend of ours that we used to race with, his name was Jerry. He was actually a competitor. He competed, and quite well, as a matter of fact, and it was done in organized races on a controlled track, and it was fun. I mean, racing is fun. It's a great hobby. I don't mean to put it down at all. You just got to do it in a safe way.
Right. And again, going back to what we were kind of alluding to earlier, there is the White Ribbon program going on, and you're reminding young kids, especially this time with prom coming up, and you know the graduation celebrations that are coming up. It's just like make responsible choices.
Right.
Don't drink and get behind the wheel. Don't have a designated driver and do all those things, because there's a grove that has 20 or 30 markers for young people who have lost their lives just making bad, regrettable decisions behind the wheel. And, every year we see about it. It's about this time because the kids are, celebrating their achievements and, moving on from high school to college. And just, you don't think about it, especially at that age. You don't always think through the consequences of what's going on next. We want to talk about another kind of, tragic topic that has come up. It's kind of a Debbie Downer, right? But these are important things to talk about, and we got to get the word out about, the resources that are out there for suicide. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll talk about that as we wrap up the show on Your Neighborhood Watch, brought to you by All American Bail Bonds on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. Welcome back to Your Neighborhood Watch, brought to you by All American Bail Bonds. Here in the studio with me, Deputy Kevin Duxbury from the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station Crime Prevention Unit. And we were just talking about some of the Nixle news releases that the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station has just put out. And again, you can sign up for those by typing in Santa Clarita and then NIXLE into your search browser, and it'll bring up the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station, and you can click on the different alerts. There's various agencies within the Sheriff's Department that put out Nixles, so you can sign up for all of them or just the ones in your area. Obviously, the crime prevention units also put out weekly reports about crime, so you can get those and kind of find out what's going on. And through that, we found out about a Tulare County Sheriff's Department search, which is going on for a missing woman, and they believe that there is a Santa Clarita Valley connection. You know a little bit about this. Can you talk to us a little bit about the Nixle?
Yeah, I was actually contacted by this detective, and basically what he told us is that this young woman, Mary Johnson Lynn, had left her house on the 22nd. The family noticed that she didn't take her bank card, she didn't take any money that they know of, she didn't take her cell phone. So they reported her missing. After about 3 days passed and she didn't come home, they reported her missing. Now on the March 26th, her car, or her van I should say, was found abandoned on the 14 freeway at Sand Canyon. Mm-hmm. So that led them to believe that she could possibly be in the Santa Clarita Valley somewhere. And
we do have a description of Mary Lyles. Her name, she's described as a 49-year-old white female, 5 foot 2 inches tall, about 300 pounds, with blonde hair and hazel eyes. We do have a picture on the hometownstation.com, and they also have one with the Nixle. So you can go to that website and kind of find out a little bit more information. If you do see her, it says here that you can call the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station. So that's 661-255-1121. If you have any information about the whereabouts of Mary Joanne Lyles, call the Sheriff Station. And the van it was a 1998 Ford Windstar van that was found. So if you saw someone maybe driving that, then maybe that's a clue. Get the information about that. And again, another upsetting note: we had a suicide recently that was reported and investigated by the Sheriff's Department's Homicide Bureau, and that happened yesterday off Oak Ridge.
Yes,
was where the report was, and so. The person, the investigation's still underway by the Homicide Bureau, but right now they believe it was a suicide, and so we'll never really know why, but we can say that there are resources out there, and these types of calls you go out to, you deal with. Usually they end up in what they call 5150, I believe is the code, and it's a medical assistance.
Yeah, personal mentally unstable is a...
Right, when you have issues, and a lot of the times deputies are able to contact the person in time and, kind of talk them down or at least get them into a safe place. But if you do have these kind of thoughts or depression, there are resources out there. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, do you have that number? Deputy Duxbury?
Yeah, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline can be reached at 1-800-273-8255.
Appropriately, 1-800-273-TALK. And if you call that number, you get connected to a skilled trained counselor who's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that's an always, all the time resources. And the Nixle that was put out by the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station had some warning signs at the bottom. Duxbury, can you talk to me a little bit about what those are if you think someone might be, feeling kind of suicidal or depressed? There are some things to look out for if you have a loved one you're concerned about.
Right, yeah, and that's a huge thing. Friends and family members, if you see warning signs, if someone's not acting quite right, take it very seriously. Better to be overcautious than undercautious.
Right.
But some of the warning signs that they listed in the NICSL, when you hear someone developing a specific plan for suicide, that's one of the number one suicide risks right there. If they actually have a plan and a way to do it.
Because then they've taken it to that second
Exactly.
level.
They've actually thought about it. If a person threatens to commit suicide, expresses suicide feelings directly, or brings up the topic of suicide, that might be a good
That's
warning.
probably the first thing before you start.
Right. A person showing signs of depression as a result of, or I should say, a loss of pleasure moods, alterations in sleeping patterns, if they're feeling hopeless, feelings of failure or shame because of a tragic event, maybe.
Yeah, I was just going to say, someone goes through a traumatic event, I'm sure that probably brings on
Right.
a lot of, loss can get lost.
Now, this is an interesting one. Someone giving away prized possessions, settling affairs, or making out a will. If this just seems kind of odd. Now, there's one thing to be preparing, with a will. I mean, I'm 46 years old. Yes, I have a will prepared, and I've talked about that. But, when you start giving away your possessions, selling things off, trying to minimize,
Again,
that
good danger
could be
sign to look
That could be
out
a
for.
good sign, okay? Risky behavior. Is this person no longer concerned about their own safety? Are they out there doing crazy things that could be a hazard to their life? That's something to think about. If you see an increased use of drugs or alcohol, okay, something more than normal. Maybe they're trying to numb the pain. And, when you're under the influence of those types of things, you're not always thinking straight.
And then the last one looks like it's isolating oneself.
Right.
Or if you lose someone to suicide, and then again, that feeling of loss and that trauma, definitely. If you see someone, there are resources out there. There's also the SCV Youth Project, which is for younger kids out there, and that works with the school and the sheriff's department out here.
And if you just got to remember, suicide, it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem.
Right, and it's never there's always help out there. So, Deputy Kevin Duxbury, our first show in the books.
Wow.
That's all the time we have for today. So thank you very much. These are All-American Bail Bonds bringing you the Neighborhood Watch on your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS.